How to identify critical roles for succession planning. By the end of this video, you're going to find out the crucial factor that will help you determine if you have a high-stress job or actually a valuable, sellable asset that you could actually exit from and could grow with or without you. Hey, I bet you think you're the key linchpin to transition your business, don't you? Yeah, just between me and you, here's the hard truth. Nobody wants to buy your job. They want to buy a business. When we think about succession planning, it's that word success in between, but the success cannot come without people. And so the critical factor in succession planning is not only the purpose and the profit and the process, but we've got to shine a spotlight right on the people, because without people, there's nothing to transition. In order to be able to boil down to those people and find those roles, there's a couple of things that I'm going to want you to build and spend some time on. The first is what we call a vision story. It's a detailed snapshot of the future of your business. Now, it's broken down into 7 categories. So why don't you get out a scratch sheet of paper and just write these down. I think it'll be helpful. Number 1 is the term of your vision. How far out do you see it? Number of years, usually 18 to 36 months. Second is the family freedom section of your business. Wait, I thought this was a business vision. It is. But the business directly impacts your family and your freedom. I want you to write down all the details of what you want your family to look like in that term that you wrote down and what you want your freedom to look like. The third element of a healthy vision story and a detailed snapshot of the future are your finances. How much in profit do you want to be able to draw out of the business in salary and owner distributions so that you can fund your family and freedom in that amount of time? And then that'll help you back into the revenue expenses. Go ahead and write those down as well. The fourth category is the product. This is the actual product and service that you're going to deliver to generate the finances to have the family and freedom that you're designing in that amount of time. And so in that product, I want you to think in terms of subdivisions, sections, what specific scope that you do. Also, the next section is the team. Who's the team that's going to deliver that product to generate that revenue? And write that down in terms of roles. That's where we're really going to start diving into the people that are going to be crucial for succession planning. So these roles will become what will be crucial for succession planning when we start to write these down and identify them. So after the team section, there's another group of people that are going to be crucial to your succession planning. In fact, we evaluate this as exit planning advisors, and that's your client. You still have to have those people as well, because if those don't exist, there's no revenue to draw for anything to transition. And so we need to write down who is an ideal client and who's a non-ideal client for what we're doing. The final section of a healthy vision story is the culture section. If a client were talking about you behind their back, what would you want them to say? Write down long phrases about what that would look like. When you start to write this down after you set your timer on a scratch sheet of paper, you will start to have visual clarity of all that is encompassed in the future snapshot of your business so that you can understand the critical roles as you transition that business. Side note, I have invested a lot of time and experience in putting another video together that will walk you detail by detail through that vision story. So make sure you check that out in the link in the description below. A second tool I want you to think through as you're walking through these critical roles of succession planning is a simple org chart. Oh, I can feel you rolling your eyes right now. No. I want you to think about this. Most people's org charts, if they talk them out, they feel more like a bowl of spaghetti than they do an actual skeletal structure upholding a body. And that's what an org chart's supposed to be. It's a skeletal structure upholding the body of your business. And so why don't you do this? Take the 4 systems of every business: marketing, sales, ops, and admin. Just write them out horizontally across the top of a sheet of paper. And then underneath, I want you to write out, what are the roles? I don't want you to think about the people's names. Role first, people agnostic. What are the roles that it's going to take to run the skeleton of your business? That's the org chart that we're talking about. And in that, you'll start to identify those roles. And then when you've got in view your vision, now that vision is informing the roles rather than just, well, that guy or that gal down the street does this with their business, I guess I need those roles too. We're not going to look at next door. We're going to look at the vision and what the vision determines. And then when that vision determines the role, those roles become critical so that we can transition that business, because the business is based on those roles and not just our opinions. There's another tool that goes side by side with the org chart, or maybe even hand in hand, and that is the job role. So a job role is a detailed task by task breakdown of every single role that exists on that org chart. So if you've got a proper job role, now what we've got is clarity for the people that come in. Here's what people hate, and this is frankly why they leave the business, is because they don't have clarity. We say things like this: nobody wants to work anymore. The reality is they just don't want to work for you. Not you. I'm talking about, the person next to you. The reality is they want to work in clarity. People want clarity. And what a job role does is it breaks down the vision role by role into detailed pieces of task clarity so that they understand what they're being asked to do on a day-to-day basis. Now, if you want to take that one step further, you can actually turn that into a daily, weekly, monthly, semi-annual, and an annual scorecard or a checklist. It's an easy way to do that. You can just go to AI, take your role, and go, hey, build this into a daily, weekly, etc. checklist and a scorecard, and it'll spit out something you can put on a spreadsheet and start to train your team on. This gives the role great clarity in how they help propel the vision that you've already written. There's another note I want to make about those role scorecards. When you take those scorecards and they're broken down, they can not only be broken down into daily, weekly, monthly, etc., but they can also be broken down into the weeks of the year across the top. This can be done simply on a spreadsheet. But let me show you the value of those scorecards. When you have a scorecard like that that's based solely off the job role, so you've got all these tasks broken down, what it allows you to do is instead of micromanaging, it allows for healthy leadership. And what healthy leadership is being able to provide somebody with clarity and then making sure that they have the proper equipment so that they are constantly working towards that end goal. But here's where micromanagement creeps in. Now, I want you to think about a seesaw. We call it the seesaw of predictability. And so there's a fulcrum in the middle, and then you've got the little seesaw that you sit on, and on one side is the proper question, and on the other side is the proper time. And so think about question and time. If you ask the right question at the right time, that's healthy leadership. But if you ask the wrong question at the right time, that's micromanagement. If you ask the right question at the wrong time, that's micromanagement. Let me give you an example. So let's say you're in a marketing and sales meeting and you ask one of your team members, hey, can you give me the sales results from 12 years ago? And they look at you and they're like, that's micromanagement. You asked the wrong question, sales results from 12 years ago. They weren't expecting that, but you did it at the right time during the marketing and sales meeting. It's a proper time to ask for sales results, just not from 12 years ago off the bat. Now, the flip side of that is let's say you say, hey, can you send me sales results from last week? Proper question, but you sent a text at 11:37 on a Friday night. Wrong time. So if you ask the right question at the right time, you've got healthy leadership. Ask the wrong question at the right time or the right question at the wrong time, it's out of balance. That's what leads into micromanagement. The role scorecard attached to the job role, attached to the org chart that's attached to the vision story will give you clarity, and it will give that team member radical clarity on what's being expected of them. And just because you build it once doesn't mean you can't flex it. Add some things, remove some things, that's okay. It's a dynamic tool to be able to do. But I want to give you a real-time example for this. Currently, we have an implementation assistant team member on our team, full-time. And so I drew the role, and the role was drawn completely out of a whole list of things that I didn't want to do anymore, or I felt like I could empower and equip somebody else to be able to do. So I built that role based on that brain dump I literally did on a scratch sheet of paper, built a formal role around it, broke it down into marketing, sales, ops, and admin, because every single role has some measure of responsibility for each one of those. Even if they're deep in operations, they're gonna be some measure of responsibility for marketing. What about when they get on a phone with a potential prospect who has a question? That's marketing, right? And so I broke all of that down, and now every single week she goes through her checklist. Well, Scott, how does she not feel like a robot? It's because it's unbelievable clarity, and then it's up to her to actually do the work in a very non-robotic way. So now I don't have to babysit her because it's all on the checklist. Anytime I have something new I would like for her to do, I actually film a little video on a screen capture software, and then we just put the link and a little line item in her checklist. So she goes back. And so as we've added things over the months and years, it's actually updated her task checklist so she's got even more clarity. And there's also some things that have been on that checklist that we've taken off. They've kind of expired or they've sunsetted. There is a myth that is cancerous in the world of business ownership. And it is this. It's the myth of, well, I'll just sell my business. Your business is only worth what somebody else will pay for it. And the value of that business is 80% dependent on the people and the process that has been trained and developed. Here's the hard but welcome truth. And that is a system of well-built process and people will create value in a business that is ultimately transferable and is successable at that point. And so I want you to have a transferable business that runs and grows with or without you. And as a reminder, you really need to go watch that other vision story video that I put in place for you. It is a deep dive into all 7 of those sections, and you will get radical clarity that you've never had before. And so go click on the link in the description below and make the time to create clarity. My name's Scott Beebe. We work with business owners between 3 and 100 employees just like you so that you can be liberated from chaos to make time for the things that matter most.